we're listening.
זה המשפחה של...
כן.
הוא יודע?
מה? Oh no, 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 no. Wait, what? No, no, no. משהו אחר.
זה משהו אחר.
כן.
It's funny because I don't know when the excavation is, so I just look something up.
Yeah. What's up? Oh, are you going to help tonight?
What's up, buddy? Yeah, you're such a mensch, man. I love that kippah on you. You look great. You look great. Mal. Shabbat shalom.
All right, welcome everyone. Come on in. Friends, come on up close. Everyone is sort of all over tonight, so the closer you come, the more it feels like we're all together.
This one, I cannot get the date of the excavation. גם את זה עכשיו?
כן.
זה חדש.
נחמד.
Right, if it's crackling,
That's good.
you know what you're getting.
All right, welcome everyone. Guys, okay, now some of you are here every week. Some of you aren't here every week, but you know that as much as possible, this is a participatory experience. So, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Welcome, everyone. So glad you could be here with us this evening. We have, as you can tell, officially hit the summer months when things are just a little bit quieter here at Temple Israel, but we are glad that we can be together. And for all of our friends who are watching from home, we're glad that you are joining us tonight as well. We're going to start, though, because there are folks who haven't been here in a long time, or maybe at all, just singing a song that helps us feel like we're really all in this together in some way. The words are Hine Matov Uma Naim, and it just means how good and precious it is to be here together as brothers and sisters, family and friends, and it's on page 10. Hine Matov Uma Naim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Uma Naim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Uma Naim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Uma Naim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Beautiful. So we always like to start our services with the traditional Shabbat blessings that sometimes people do in their homes, but we know that sometimes you are running from work or you're running all over the place and you haven't had time to do them before you come to services. So we do them in our actual service, our candle lighting and kiddush and motzi. And tonight we are going to ask Miss Sadie and her parents, that's you, Sadie, our bat mitzvah, to come and help us with these blessings in anticipation of becoming a bat mitzvah tomorrow. Your brothers, by the way, get no challah because they're staying behind. Just saying. So we begin with the lighting of the candles. Oh, where's our magical lighter? Hold on a second. You got it. All right. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving it to your dad because it's a lightsaber, and I feel like he's the kind of guy who will appreciate a lightsaber. Yes. There you go. Yeah. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'kner shel Shabbat. Beautiful. All right, Sadie, you want to lift the glass? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Sade, if you want to unwrap the challah there. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. All right, take a hunk and then it's official. You actually can bring some to your brothers if you want to. No? Okay, just kidding. You don't get it. Beautiful. Nicely done. I'll take this back for you. Sure? Yeah, you can just put it. It's cool though, isn't it? So there are a lot of different ways that we welcome in Shabbat together, but one of them is this idea of bringing in Shabbat angels. And we do this with the words of Shalom Aleichem, which is on page 24. And this welcomes in these angels that we believe come into our midst every Friday night when we are able to experience the peace of Shabbat together. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On page 29, there is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. And there is one whose voice rings with a song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nevarech, let us bless, and we rise together on page 28.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. On the bottom of 33, we read responsively, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Israel. And we join together in the words of Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, u'shochbecha uv'kumecha, u'kshartam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayu latotafot b'neinecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha, leman tizkeru, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, Vitem kadoshim Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot.
That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness.
That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha ledor v'kodesh, norati Lord, osei feled, norati Lord, osei feled, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh. Mi chamocha is the song that our ancestors sang as they went from slavery to freedom. But in our evening service, we always follow it with the words of Hashkivenu. That's a song, a prayer that reminds us that wherever we go, wherever our freedom may take us, that we need for God to spread a shelter of peace anywhere that we may travel. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Lahamidenu shomreinu, L'chaim. shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. So I know that in our room this evening, as I said in the beginning, some of you we get to see every week, but there's some of you who perhaps it's been a while, some of you it may be your very first time. So when we get to this next prayer in our service, which is called tefillah, which means the prayer, our ancestors understood that there would be synagogues just like this one, where there would be people who know all the words, who know the tune, who feel as comfortable with this as they do with any English reading, and there would be people who don't know it at all, who look at these words and it just looks like squiggles on the page. But they anticipated that we would be in this moment. So if you're one of those people for whom the prayer sounds familiar, then we encourage you to say it with us. But if you are not, know that this is a prayer that in many synagogues is actually done silently to make sure that people feel like they are not alone if they don't know the words. So if you are one of those, what I would encourage you to do is just follow along or offer the tefillah, the prayer of your heart, and know that all of our prayers and our thoughts are going to the same place. I ask you to rise on page 46. Adonai sefetai tiftach ufi agita ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el ha'gadol ha'gibor v'hanora, El Elyon, gomer chasadim tovim, v'koneh hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imohot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומציר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. Please be seated. On the top of 53.
Days pass, and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see, wherever we gaze, that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. On 55, may these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its purpose. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. And on page 60, we join together in a prayer for peace with the words of Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, turn now to page 253. And we'll take this point in our service to offer a prayer for healing. So if there's someone who you're thinking of at this time who could use a healing prayer and who would appreciate knowing that their names were being shared here, I'd invite you to do so at this time. Welcome back. We're thinking too of Lacey Weinstein and Arlene Alper and Drew Patchen. We're thinking too of Carl Nieblock and of Glenn Figgis. For each of them and for all who are hurting, we offer this Mishaberach. Shalom, b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'yol kol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen.
The greatest archaeological discovery in Jewish history. It's like a declarative and an interrogative. For a long time, and I'm trying to think about Raiders of the Lost Ark, I try to put it out of my mind. But for a long time, there was really a very big open question that could only be solved by the greatest archaeological discovery of all time. And that is simply this. Is the Bible made up? Is it make-believe? Or is it real? And I found that to be a very important question, and it drove me through a lot of my education. I wanted to know, speaking of Spielberg and movies, what was real about it? Is it all, as some archaeologists would argue and contend, a pious fiction, the kingdom of David, ancient Israel? Brian and I know the answer, but we just confide that in each other. We'll let you know tonight. There was a lot of speculation as to whether ancient Israel was like Camelot. And really, we didn't have any concrete evidence for people like me who really appreciate the idea of belief, but also happen to like the idea of fact. And they really wanted to know, is that stuff in the Bible real? Did it exist? Or was it King Arthur and King David being the same thing? So we didn't really have any excellent evidence. Until one day there was an archaeologist who was really on the outskirts of Jerusalem excavating some graves from the 7th century BCE. His name was Gabriel Bar-Kai. And just so that you realize that archaeology is as much of a science as it is a bit of magic and mystery, Gabriel Bar-Kai and all of his team of experts and PhDs take a break, walk away from the tombs, and go and have lunch. But they leave a 13-year-old kid. I'm not implying anything about 13-year-old kids, since there are some in the room. But they leave a 13-year-old kid there to clean up some of the schmutz. It happens to be that the 13-year-old kid does not like using the broom, and instead really likes the hammer, and decides out of boredom to just stand there and give the floor of the burial space a few good whacks over about 10 minutes worth of time until the entire thing collapses. And a false roof was discovered, and the tomb, which was originally looted, beneath it was found something that we call the Silver Scroll. And upon it was written nothing less than a blessing from the Torah portion in Numbers, the priestly blessing.
We're tag teaming sermons tonight just to throw you off because it's summertime. So that blessing is found in this week's Torah portion. And it's a blessing that even if you're not Sadie, you have probably heard it before. Because it is a blessing that we give at every positive Jewish life cycle event. We do it at every baby naming. We do it at every bar mitzvah. We do it at every confirmation. We do it at every conversion. We do it at every wedding. It's the blessing that says, may God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. May God's countenance be lifted over you, and may you be granted with peace. This blessing is so powerful that it's the one thing that we do at all of those sacred moments. But so the question is, well, why is this blessing such a big deal, this priestly blessing? Some people say maybe it was a big deal because the priests said it. And just as Rabbi Michael explained, that only in this fancy priest's tomb would you have found this archaeological evidence that proves that it was a thing, even then that the priest said. But you know, the reason that you need archaeology to tell you that is because there are no more priests. We can go back and we can read in the Torah and try to understand who those priests must have been. And they were certainly the Kohanim. They were certainly people who were in charge of worship in the ancient temple, but really, they had a bit of magic to them. These priests were the ones who could actually be the ones to talk to God and ask for God's blessing directly. The priests were the ones who would be able to take a sacrifice and somehow really make it matter. In many ways, the priests then of the ancient temple are probably more similar to what you might think of like a Catholic priest is able to do today, in that they are able to have this direct connection to God. But my friends, I'm sorry to say, as rabbis, we don't have that. Rabbis are not priests. Our job is to preach and to teach and to counsel, but we do not have a direct hotline to God. We do not have any sort of magic that can turn water into wine or anything like that. We are not the priests, and so that power is not in us. So maybe you would say, okay, well, if it's not the priests that make this blessing so special, maybe it's the words themselves, this Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. But for those of you who have been to probably B'nai Mitzvah, or where you hear us do this blessing the most, you will notice that for as often as Rabbi Michael and I say this blessing, we never translate it exactly the same way. And the reason for that is that it's a very hard blessing to translate. The first part is easy. It just says, may God bless you and keep you. That's a very nice blessing. But the next 2 lines of this, and this is just a 3-line blessing, it's actually very cool in the Torah portion because it looks totally different. It's these 3 separate lines that are totally separate from the rest of the Torah portion. But the next 2 lines both refer to God's face. Something about God's face being lifted over you, God's face shining on you, which sounds very beautiful, but what does God look like? Ella's laughing because she knows, right? What she knows is that we don't know. We have no idea what God looks like. A very big part of Judaism is that not only do we not know what God looks like, but we don't believe that God has a corporeal presence. In our mind, God does not have a body. So the idea that we have this very special blessing talking all about God's face shining on you or God's face being lifted over you, it kind of makes no sense at all. And so every time we translate it, we sort of say it in a different way. We say, may God's countenance be lifted over you, may God's presence be with you. Sometimes we kind of just make up our own thing because the actual blessing itself doesn't seem to work that well. Now, I would think that if I were writing the Torah, there are probably a lot of things I would change. But if I were writing the Torah and saying what this one great, amazing blessing would be that we would use at every single life cycle event, I would have made it a little bit clearer. I probably would have said something like, may God bless you with health and happiness. May God bless you with courage and wisdom. May God bless you with longevity. I mean, there's so many lovely things that we could say instead of this somewhat nonsensical, may God's countenance be lifted over you. So if this blessing is not really special because of the priests who don't exist anymore, if it's not really special because of the words, because they don't really make a whole lot of sense, then why is this a blessing that we say so often? I will tell you, when I first learned this blessing back in rabbinical school, I wouldn't have known the answer. But since then, I honestly cannot do the math about how many hundreds of times I have said this blessing in my career. Maybe 1,000 times. It is really a blessing that we give that often. But I will tell you that there is something that's amazing about this blessing. If you come to a baby naming, and some of you have come to them before, you know that there is this moment when we're blessing the baby and we sing this blessing to them, and 9 times out of 10, all of a sudden, the baby falls silent. We say this blessing at every B'nai Mitzvah, and it's a blessing that we say while the child is facing the ark, and if you watch that child, you can see their shoulders. Every confirmation, when we're dealing with 16-year-olds who, and I don't know if we have some 16-year-olds tonight, but 16-year-olds are almost all atheists, right? They're all too good for Judaism. They're all too good for religion. But when you give them this blessing on their confirmation, I will tell you, the look in their eyes changes. It changes at a conversion. It changes on their wedding day. This final blessing somehow means something magical. What I think it is, it's not about who's giving it. It's not about what the words are. It's that in that one short moment, this blessing that does not take more than 30 seconds to give, it's as if something magical really does happen. And we who are the blessers, all of a sudden feel like maybe we do really have the power to bless people. And those who are receiving it, somehow in that moment, they lose their cynicism, they lose their disbelief, and they think, what if it's really true that I could be blessed? And just that act of belief in and of itself makes this blessing feel real. Now I get that somehow it is hard to actually drop our disbelief. Sometimes you have to actually be in that sacred moment and know that the blessing is coming. But just in case, we thought that tonight we should at least offer it to each of you. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha ve'yichunecha.
May God's light shine upon you and guide you as you go on your way.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. May God's countenance be lifted over you. May you be granted with wholeness and peace. And together we say, Amen. So we'll ask you now to please rise, and we're going to join together in the words of the Aleinu. And Aleinu is on the bottom of page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'artzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo samcha kenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. On page 287, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair.
Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision, our grief clouds our understanding. We often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. The life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you.
At this time, we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names: Marcia Spielberg, Archie, Joyce Margulis, and Dr. Greta Camel. We now recall the names of those the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or in the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial: Isaac Burstein, Catherine Silverman Cohn, Max Cohn, Pauline Cattler Cohen, Marjorie Feldman Korn, Jack R. Cutter, Scott Allen Dankner, Francis Feldman, Stanley V. Friedheim, Doris May Hacker Friedman, Simon Gelber, Ruth Leventhal Goldman, Leon Gutman, Samuel Hamburg, Pearl Height, John Hoffbeck, Louis A. Horowitz, Linda Heiken, Saul Morton Isaac, Benjamin Jaffe, Carl Kahn, Charles Kahn, Anna T. Kleiman, Ethel Gossman Kottman, Ruth Farrer Kottman, Bernard M. Lauer, August Lipson, Rebecca K. Losses, Walter B. Mainzer, Carola Margraf, Mildred Epstein Nemzer, Beatrice B. Pasternak, George Pittler, Aline Polsky, Harry Irving Samuels, Herbert S. Sheely, Diana Frieda Schreiber, Sylvia Schwartz, Joseph Shapiro, Emmanuel B. Scher, Marnie Ray Schifrin, Abe I. Small, Marion Solomon, Sam Tucker, Anna Weil, Marion Persky Weiss, Jeremy Michael Wolfman, Muriel Horn Zweig. So with these names and the names that we keep in our hearts, we turn together to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divarach hirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'yizman kariv v'emru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam omei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, ta'amiran ba'alma v'emru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al Yisrael v'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael Ve'emru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, huya ase shalom. Aleinu ve'kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. Please be seated. All right, so we have a few short announcements. First of all, we are so delighted to be able to welcome Gateway Christian Church in De Pere. So glad you all are here tonight. You all, after the service, take a minute to grab a cookie or something, and then you all are going to come back in here and meet with Rabbi Michael so he can tell you a little bit more about everything that you experienced tonight. We also, even though it is summer, we do actually have a lot coming up that we hope you all join us for. Next week, Dr. Andrew Rayfeld is going to be in town, and he is going to be doing a lecture on Saturday morning. So if you've been wondering what's been going on in Reform Judaism, he's the head of Hebrew Union College, so there's no one better to learn it from. The following 2 Saturdays, we are going to be teaching a class on the roots of anti-Semitism. For those of you who feel like you have been a part of TI but don't really feel a part of TI, and yes, I'm also speaking to you, friends, at home, we have a program called the Tish that is going to be an opportunity for you to be able to join other TI members at their tables on a Friday night for dinner. You can do it if you've been a part of TI forever, or even if you're just thinking about becoming a member, but it's a really nice way to be able to maybe meet some people in a different way. And last but not least, Neil Margulis would be very mad if I did not tell you that we have an amazing raffle for 4 green seats to a Cardinals home game. I do not watch sports, but green seats are apparently awesome because there's also a lot of free food. Yes, you guys should totally go. It would be awesome. You can't bring your dad, but the 4 of you guys could go, and that would be perfect because there's only 4. So, we wanted to have a closing song that would be about blessings, and weirdly, in Judaism, there's not a lot of them, so we thought of one, and Susie Epstein, if you were watching at home, really, this is for you, but we hope that everyone will sing along with us. This is Lechi Lach. Lechi Lach, to a land that I will show you. 341. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Lechi lach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi lach, to the place that I will show you. Lesimchat chaim, lesimchat chaim, lesimchat chaim, lechi lach. Shabbat shalom, everyone.